Okay, so we are live on Facebook and YouTube and Zoom. I'm Susanna Cates, the plant-based priest, and tonight we're having an Italian festa. I'm super excited about this because I thought of all of the cuisines that I was going to experiment with, probably Italian food was not going to be the one that worked out the best for plant-based. And I'm sure that any actual Italians watching this are probably about to pass out about the fact that I'm not using any cheese or pork or anything in here, but I promise it's still going to be really good. So tonight we're going to be making gnocchi made out of cannellini beans instead of potatoes, which is kind of the traditional, one of the traditional ingredients for gnocchi. We're also going to be making an eggplant not parmesan with tofu ricotta, and a great big delicious Italian fall chopped salad with all kinds of really good things in there. A lot of the stuff, not a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff I've done beforehand because there was a lot of prep work involved tonight. And I didn't want to spend 20 minutes running a food processor going, yep, it's still running. And just wait while you guys watch me run a food processor. So the pesto I made ahead of time and the tofu ricotta I made ahead of time. And the eggplant had to be baked ahead of time because it's got to be crispy before you put it into the casserole, and it takes about 40 minutes for that to happen. So I didn't want for us to just be sitting here waiting on everything to be done. But when we get to those ingredients, I'll tell you how I did it. And of course, the recipes are always online and you can look it up. So we're going to start with the gnocchi. And I'm not going to get the water boiling just yet because we want it to dry out just a little. This is 2 cups of cannellini beans. Cannellini beans are a very neutral white bean. And I want to pause here and just tell you, if you are considering going plant-based, or if you are already plant-based and you don't have an electric pressure cooker, go find one. I do not have the traditional brand name, very popular electric pressure cooker that got real popular a couple of years ago. I have a lesser brand, but it works just fine. And if you like to cook beans and you forget to cook them for 8 hours, which is oftentimes what it takes, you can get them in your electric pressure cooker and cook them in about a half an hour, which makes a very, very big difference. So I encourage you, if you don't have one of those, find one because they make your life so much easier. They also cook rice perfectly. So this is about 2 cups of cannellini. It's not that much liquid in there because we don't want it to be too wet. It's just like making regular pasta. If it's wet and soggy, you're not going to end up with a good product. So you've got 2 cups of that in there. And then you've got just a couple of garlic cloves and then a good healthy pinch sprinkle of salt. And we're just going to process that until it gets very, very smooth. You want to make sure the garlic gets all the way minced up in there. Kind of like making hummus, but with cannellini beans instead of garbanzo beans. And you probably could dip stuff in this, but I'm not sure that you would want to. It's pretty bland. So here we have this nice smooth mixture. Let me get this into a bowl real quick. And you can see it's really, really smooth and soft, which is what we want. So this is our base. If you've ever made traditional gnocchi before, you know that you use mashed potatoes. And that kind of gives the starchy base other than the flour. Beans are going to do kind of the same. They're going to fulfill the same function. The difference is, and this is a really awesome difference for people that are worried about getting enough protein, potatoes don't have that much. They have some. Beans are loaded with protein. So not only are you getting a healthier product in general, but you're also getting a much more nutritionally complete product when you use it with, when you make it with the beans. So I've got 2 cups of flour here. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups, but I have a little bit extra. It's kind of like making bread. Some days if it's humid out and you're trying to make pasta, you need a little bit more flour. If the beans are especially well cooked or especially wet, you might need a little more. So I'm going to start with about 1 cup. And first, I'm just going to use this spatula to kind of mix it in and get it incorporated with the bean paste in there. Your mileage may vary. So it's already starting to come together and get kind of choppy looking, which is exactly what we want, because we want it to be a very firm dough because we're going to be working with it a lot. So once that flour starts to become incorporated, I'm going to dish the spatula I'm going to use my hands. And I'm not really digging in there too much. I'm just kind of using the back of my hand especially to press the flour in and then kind of pull it up and out of the way. And you can see it's already forming a ball. Still pretty sticky though. So I'm going to grab another little handful of flour and start incorporating that as well. What I don't want is to put too much flour in there so that it starts to taste doughy, because then you won't taste that nice mild flavor of the beans. All you'll taste is flour, and we don't want that. So I'm going to shake out some of this excess and then go back. So it's doing almost exactly where I want it to be, because it's sticking to itself really well, but not so much to me, which is what I want. So just kind of scoop off some of the stuff that's stuck to the sides. So let's see, what did that take? 6 minutes, 5 minutes? About 5 minutes and you have pasta dough. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty good time saver as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to break it in half. And then that half, I'm going to bust up a little more. And I've got a cutting board here. So dust it with a little bit of flour. Roll this into a ball. And then once I have it in a ball, I'm going to start rolling it like that. And I'm going to put it on this cutting board and just start rolling it out with my hands. And you know, I'm going to rinse my hands because the previous dough is sticking to my hands and then it's making the dough stick to me. And that's annoying. And I don't feel like being annoyed today. So there we go. Get a little more flour on my hands. And we're going to roll this out. Yeah, I think the problem is with this cutting board. This cutting board is not conducive to rolling things out. There we go. I will make you conducive. Okay. So we're going to roll it out not too thin, probably about the thickness of my thumb. Not too thick, not too thin, because you want it to be pretty substantial. Gnocchi has a nice bite to it when you cook it right. And so you don't want to make it too thin. And so once we get there, I'm going to kind of even up the sides, the ends a little bit. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing is perfect in this world, not even pasta. So let me grab my knife. And we're going to cut off like 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch pieces. They're like little dumplings, really. I just set them aside. They don't have to be perfect. And the traditional way of making gnocchi is to roll them across a fork so that they get those little ridges on there. This dough is too soft. I tried and it did not happen. All I got was dough coming up through the tines of the fork. And I thought, well, that is neither aesthetically pleasing nor possible to eat. So I'm just going to have to skip that. And it didn't taste any different without the little ridges on it. So the function of those little ridges, by the way, is to hold the sauce. And so that the sauce clings to the pasta a little bit better. And with a thick sauce, that's especially nice. And we do have a thick sauce tonight. We made a pesto that is just out of this world delicious. But it'll still taste good and it'll still hold on to the sauce without those little ridges. So fear not. So while I'm doing this, I'm also going to turn my water on so that we can get the water boiling. I do like to let these sit for just a few minutes after I roll them out and cut them so that they dry out just a little tiny bit. They don't have to dry out overnight or even for that long. I just like to get some of the moisture out by letting them sit out. And this makes a lot. The test batch that I made at home lasted me for about 4 days. And that was even grudgingly sharing it with other people in the house. But it will also fill you up because it's made with those beans. The protein actually gives it a lot more substance than regular pasta or even traditional potato gnocchi, just because it fills you up more. The protein, that's the gift of protein to you, is that it fills you up more. And the fiber also helps. You're going to get some fiber in this that you wouldn't get from regular pasta or regular gnocchi. So keep that in mind. And if it sticks a little bit when you're cutting it, just roll it and it'll come right off. And you still have your gnocchi shaped gnocchi. I always feel like I'm saying that word wrong. I don't think I am, but it always feels like it's wrong. It's not something I grew up eating. So it took me a while to figure out how to say it, much less how to cook it. Where I grew up in Florida, I was just talking about this with my husband. When I grew up in Florida, there was one Italian restaurant. It was this homesick transplant from New York City that sold a lot of pizza to us, but like traditional Italian stuff, most Floridians just really, at this point in time, were just not really familiar with it. And I am ashamed to admit this. I'm ashamed to admit this. But when chain restaurants really started hitting my part of Florida, this is Gainesville, North Florida, when Olive Garden opened up in Gainesville, my goodness gracious, they practically needed a traffic cop in the parking lot because people were just so excited about the authentic Italian food that was now in Gainesville, Florida. It was, in retrospect, it's pretty embarrassing, but it was a simpler time. And now, of course, there are all kinds of restaurants there, and it's a university town. You'd think they would have been a little bit more diverse in their food offerings, but no, you would be wrong. So yeah, long story short, I do the best I can with the Italian food here, folks. So if you have experienced better, then just have mercy on me and understand I'm trying. I'm new here. I'm not from here. I don't know your ways. I know someone that says these days you can actually get better Italian food in New York than you can in Italy. I don't know if that's true.
Sorry. No way.
I am not the one that said it. I heard that. I found it kind of hard to believe. What is your expertise, Michelle?
So I had the fortunate experience of having gone to the place, and one of my favorite things about going there is the food.
Well, yeah.
It's where you eat. We were fortunate enough the last time to eat at a Michelin-rated restaurant in Sorrento, and my son, who walked out and said to me, "Mom, can we move here?"
Oh,
Because he loved the food so much.
wow. Well, I can tell you right now, this is not going to be that. Sorry.
I figured that. To say that New York is better, I know. It's just a fresh pasta that they use.
The best pasta I've ever had was in Italy, by far. I didn't know pasta could be like that.
And the pizza too. And I don't know what they do with the dough, but it's so light and airy.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that any food in America is all that much better. Just saying. Well, yeah. All right. So I have here a big, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pop these chickpeas. Okay, so squirrel, we're going to take a little attention deficit break here and put these chickpeas and artichoke hearts. So these is 2 cans of chickpeas and a 12-ounce jar of artichoke hearts, not rinsed. They're marinated, but not rinsed. And they've been drying out, drained and drying out here for a little bit. I'm going to put these on a cookie sheet and start roasting them at 450 degrees because this is for our salad. I love salad with lots of things in it, and that's why I'm a big fan of this salad. We'll talk about it later. There's a little bit of olive oil in here, and I'm also going to put just a little sprinkle of salt. The dressing has lots and lots of flavor, so I'm not going to put any more flavor into the artichoke hearts and chickpeas, but I just want to make sure that they've got a nice coating of olive oil and salt. And somebody give me 20 minutes on a timer, please. That's the best part, you know. I mean, it's not the best part, but one of the really awesome parts about having people here while I'm cooking is that I don't have to set my own timers. It's great. Somebody's always willing to help. All right, get the pasta off my fingers here. I think the water's boiling. So this is rapidly boiling salted water. I'm just going to start dropping these gnocchi in, and they're going to hit the bottom, and they're going to want to stay there. So once I get a good batch in here. I'm going to stir it around so that they don't stick. And then in just a very few minutes, they'll pop up to the top. And when they pop up to the top, they're done and you can eat them. You specifically, y'all can eat them. So let me get a few more in here. I don't want to crowd the pan too much because I don't want the water to cool down and I don't want them to stick to each other. So while the gnocchi are in there doing their thing, here is what we are going to be saucing them with. So this is a lemon basil pesto. The recipe is actually one that I've used in another dish. I don't remember when I did this, earlier this summer, I think. But it's really, really simple. It's just basil and walnuts and lemon zest and lemon juice and olive oil. What really makes it, though, is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast, I don't have my jar up here anymore, is really handy if you want kind of a cheesy flavor, but you're not going to be using cheese. I don't know what it is about it that makes it do like that, but it does like that. So garlic, walnuts, basil, olive oil, a little bit of salt, lemon zest, lemon juice, and nutritional yeast. It has that same feeling in your mouth like something cheesy, because basil usually has Parmesan, or pesto usually has a little bit of Parmesan in it. This does not, but I feel fairly certain that you won't miss it. I hope you will. So some of these are starting to come up to the top. I'm going to add a few more because I want you all to be able to have your first course. While that's doing that, this is our 9 by 13 pan for the eggplant parmesan. So we've got floaters here in a good way. Turn the heat up just a little bit more. There we go. See, that's what I wanted to avoid. It's cooking just fine, but when you add a lot of cold pasta to hot water or cold anything to hot water, it lowers the boiling temperature. So I had to turn up the heat to bring it back up, and now it's boiling it the way I want it to. So I'm going to pull these because they are done. And that's how quickly they cook. So start to finish, that recipe, not including the pesto, less than 20 minutes, and you have a protein-packed dinner. And if you serve it with some salad or some roasted vegetables or something like that on the side, then you've got a lot of veggies in there too. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to start assembling our eggplant parmesan because that has to bake for a little bit. This is an oiled 9 by 13 inch pan, and I'm going to put just a little bit of a drizzle. Please don't hate me for using prepared tomato sauce. I do have some homemade, but it's in the freezer and I'm saving it for a rainy day where I don't feel like making it. So forgive me. This is a decent brand. It doesn't have any sugar in it, which is something that is hard to find. So there's oil already, and I just put a thin layer of tomato sauce on the bottom there. These eggplant, so anytime, just about any time I cook eggplant, you know that I like to salt them first and let them sit in that salt so any kind of bitterness gets drawn out of it. Then they're rinsed off, dried off, and these I then kind of, you can tell they're nice and golden brown. And what I did for those was I dipped them in bean water, like the canned bean juice. It's also called aquafaba, which is just a fancy way to say bean water, because it has properties that are a lot like egg. It's a little bit sticky, like eggs are, but of course, without any kind of animal product or animal protein in it. And it's also nice because you don't have as much waste. So dipped it in that and then dredged it in a mixture of breadcrumbs, some dried basil, some dried oregano, a little bit of garlic powder, again with the nutritional yeast, just a little bit. And the recipes, again, for the breadcrumb mixture and everything else are online. They're on my website, which is plantbasedpriest.com. And they're also linked in my Facebook page. So if you're looking for those, that's where you can find them. Just a few more gnocchi in here. So once they were dipped in that aquafaba or bean water and then breaded with the breadcrumbs. I just baked them at 375 degrees, I believe, for about 30 to 40 minutes. So once they're done, I'm just putting them in a nice layer on the bottom of this here. And they're very crispy, which is nice. They won't stay all that crispy once they're covered in tomato sauce and a bunch of other things, but they'll still have a really nice texture. So this is our tofu ricotta. And when somebody told me you could make ricotta out of tofu, I did not believe it until I tried it. It is firm tofu with some of the liquid, most of the liquid just squeezed out. Again, if you're using a press, don't use a press for this because you want it to have some liquid left. It's that, again, with the nutritional yeast, some dried basil, lots of garlic, a little bit of salt, and lemon juice. The lemon juice gives it that kind of tang that we're used to when we have something cheesy. I'm going to see if there's enough left for you guys to just try a little smear of it without it being incorporated into the dish. But as you can see, it's very soft. It spreads more or less easily, about as easily as ricotta is going to anyway. So the best technique is to take just a little bit at a time and just work it around in there because you just want a nice coating on top of the eggplant. Okay. And once there's a decent looking coating, and you can maneuver it around a little bit, it's not, these eggplant slices are pretty sturdy now that they've been baked. Got to keep one eye on the eggplant and one eye on our gnocchi. We're almost there on that batch. And then what you want to do is put a little bit more of the sauce on top. And just spread that. By the way, this is a heavy dish. This is a great dish for potluck events and things like that. It weighs a ton and people will think that you worked much harder than you did because there's so much of it, which is always a bonus. So spread that all around. And then here are cheesy breadcrumbs. So these are panko breadcrumbs. So they have a much crunchier, crispier texture mixed with, of course, nutritional yeast and a little bit of garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper. And it's really good on plant-based macaroni and cheese. It's good on any kind of casserole, but it provides a nice little extra flavor point and a lot of nice texture. So there's that. And then as soon as I get these out, we're going to do another layer. Basically, just keep layering it until all of your ingredients are used up or until the pan is full, whichever happens first. So let me add one more batch. I try really hard to make everything come out all at the same time, but sometimes it just does not work that way. Honestly, if we end up with a whole bunch of edible things, I should be happy. And this should all be pretty much edible. So you're in luck. All right, so there's that. And then we just start all over again with the eggplant slices. And if you have to overlap them a little bit, there are worse fates than eating a lot of crispy, delicious eggplant covered in delicious sauce and fake cheese. You can do a lot worse. So again, I'm going to put a little smear of ricotta kind of on each eggplant slice. And that way, once each one has a little bit on there, I'm going to be able to spread it out a lot more easily. So, because this is, I mean, the ricotta really is, well, the eggplants are good too. I can't say that any one of this is the best part of the whole dish, but you do want lots of the ricotta because that's really what gives it that tenderness and lots of good flavor. So don't skimp. There will be enough. There is always enough. See? Not enough for you to try on its own, I'm afraid. Sorry. But you'd rather have it in this anyway, I think. Does anyone just sit around with a spoon and eat regular ricotta? Okay. Oh, you do? Maybe you should move to Italy.
Well, there's extra sauce. Make a little Well, yeah, what are you supposed to do?
That's fair. I just had some right off the spoon, so who am I to judge? Okay, more sauce. Spread it around. Okay. And for the final layer, lots and lots of these nice crispy breadcrumbs, and that way it'll get nice and crunchy on the top. Okay. So this is ready to go, and it's going back into the, what is it, 375 degree? Yeah, 375 degree oven. And hopefully by the time we're done with the gnocchi and the salad, that will be ready to eat up too. So this batch is ready to go. Turn that off. I just want to make sure these are not sticking to each other. They are not. Get some of the steam off. I don't want it to be too wet. And then I'm going to pour some of this pesto on there. And this pesto freezes really well. So if you make a whole bunch, I know that pesto is kind of a summertime dish, but like I say, it keeps well, it freezes well. And actually I've seen lots of like ideas where you can put it in an ice cube tray. And once it freezes in the ice cube tray, you can pop it out and then just have like little serving size worth of pesto hanging around, which I'd be okay with that. So here is our pesto gnocchi. I'm going to serve some of this up for your first course. I'll try and be as even and generous as I can. There are 4 of you out there. Yeah, I don't know where Fred wandered off to, but we'll save some back just in case he returns. If I have to make a few more gnocchi, I've got one little thing of dough left, so I can always do that. Okay. All right. Here are your pesto white bean gnocchi. There you go. And for the folks at home, this is what the end product looks like. I know pesto does not translate well online. I'm just saying, it just is not that visually appealing. If you're watching from home, I'm sure it tastes better than it looks. Let's find out, because I have not tried this yet either. I'm happy. What do we think? Woo. If somebody said that pasta is made out of beans, would you believe it? Woo. Isn't that so cool? Mm-hmm. Yep, it's fluffy, but it's dense, which is nice. So we're getting rave reviews here. That's good news. So we can set the gnocchi aside for now, and let's talk about our salad. So we're getting out of salad season, one might think, but this is actually kind of like a fall winter salad because of the ingredients. And I'll tell you, this salad is supposed to have radicchio in it. Radicchio is that kind of nice, bitter, bright red, well, it's not a green, but it's a salad ingredient, I guess. They didn't have it. I didn't think it was that exotic of a food item, but apparently it is. So we don't have radicchio in our salad tonight, but we do have romaine and fennel. And I love, here's the funny thing. I don't like black licorice at all. I really don't like black licorice, but I love fennel, which it's not the same taste though. It is not. It's not the same taste, and I'll tell you why. Because my husband likes black licorice, but he hates fennel. So who knows? In any event, let's make the dressing first. I've already chopped up some oregano and minced 1 clove of garlic. and put in the olive oil because I wanted to make sure I had enough olive oil and didn't have to go home to get more. You can make this in a bowl with a whisk or a fork. Honestly, I just really love having jars around for the very purpose of making salad dressing. It's a lot easier because then you can just shake it up and it emulsifies that much quicker. So we've also got mustard, we've got orange juice, and this was fresh squeezed. I squeezed this orange juice all by myself with my own hands. Aren't you impressed? So the orange juice, olive oil, oregano, garlic. We're putting a little bit of vinegar in here. I believe it's 3 tablespoons. Is anyone shocked that I don't have these recipes memorized? I do not have these recipes memorized. There are very few recipes that I have memorized. That gnocchi one I have memorized, but that's because it's beans and flour and garlic. Okay, so 3 tablespoons of vinegar and a tablespoon, or a teaspoon, good thing I saw that, teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Lots of dressings have mustard, even when there is not a mustardy flavor to it. Do you know why? Balance, maybe. So dressings are traditionally made out of an oil and an acid. So olive oil and orange juice and vinegar, or canola oil, unflavored oil and wine vinegar or something. They don't mix. Oil doesn't mix very well with anything except for other oils, unless you have something like this, which is not really a solid, but not really a liquid. So when you shake up, that acidic mixture with oil, all of those little molecules stick to this better than they would if you just shook it up by itself. So a lot of dressings have mustard in it. That's why. It's science. It's cooking science, which is the only science that I can really deal with at all. And even then, that's about a teaspoon. So about a teaspoon, you don't need much because you're not really looking for strong mustard flavor unless you're making honey mustard or something like that. You just want enough in there so that when you shake it up, it stays that way. It just helps to keep it consistent. I always thought that was pretty cool. So that is our dressing. And of course, we're going to check for seasonings just to make sure it tastes okay. The other thing we're going to do is give our beans and artichoke hearts roasting away in there a little bit of a shake. Ooh, they're popping, all those little skins. It's really cool. How much longer on those, by the way? A minute? Wow. So you can see, got a very consistent texture. Thanks, mustard. That's really good. It's a very light dressing, but that's good because there are a lot of very strong flavors in the salad itself. So I'm going to show you how to cut an orange fancy-like. If you like putting orange sections in your salad, you know that you can't just peel it and pull off a section of orange with all the stuff on it and throw it in there. It has to look nice. So you cut off the top, making sure you have the flesh visible. Same on the other side. Maybe a little more. There we go. And then what you want to do, and I'm going to use the thicker, this is the pith of the orange, and it's very bitter. You want to avoid that. So you're just going to bring the knife down. So now you have like a little stripe where it's no more pith and just the flesh. And that also gives you a guide for the next slices that you make, because you'll be able to see just how deeply to cut in order to get rid of that bitter stuff. Is that the beans? Time for the chickpeas to come out. All right, so now, oh, these are so delicious looking. Now we have these beautiful golden roasted chickpeas. Yeah. And artichoke hearts. So we're gonna just stir them up a little bit on here. Those are good to go. So we're gonna let those cool over here. I'm so excited about this salad. When I saw artichoke hearts and chickpeas, I was like, I'm in. Whatever else is in that salad, I'll make it work. But actually, everything else in this salad is good. And hopefully, when you make it for yourselves, you can find radicchio wherever you are. Geez. So now we've mostly got it all trimmed off. Just trim off the other little bits of that white pith so that you don't have that bitterness. And then you can just cut it like this. So you have these really nice, brilliant orange slices without any of the yucky stuff in there. And then you can just cut them into bite-sized pieces. Makes things a lot easier. It's a little bit more time consuming, but actually depending on the orange, this might be faster than peeling an orange because I've known some that take a long time to get going. So here are our oranges. This one has a big tough spot right in the middle, so I'm not going to use that. But I'll show you one more time. We'll cut off the ends, making sure you've got a good bit of the flesh in there when you cut it. And then just cut smoothly down around the outside. And then once you make that first cut, you can see right where to go. And there's a little bit stuck in there, but not much. Not really enough to be concerned about. What's important is you're getting rid of all that bitterness that you don't want. And it also looks prettier. You could, I guess, put, kind of uncleaned up slices in there. But not only would it not taste as good, it wouldn't look as pretty. Because part of the appeal of this salad is its visual appeal. It's really kind of cool looking with the chickpeas and the oranges. And it would be very cool looking if there was radicchio in it. Oh well, I'm bitter about that. Gosh, it's really all coming out right now. I thought I was over it, but I'm not, clearly. Okay, get rid of that tough part. Now we have all these perfect pieces of orange ready to go into our salad. Now what I did earlier was cut the romaine into bite-sized pieces, washed it, cut it into bite-sized pieces, and then the same with the fennel. So that's all getting nice and cold. If you are serving a cold salad, make sure you are serving a cold salad because there's nothing more depressing than a green salad that's supposed to be nice and crispy that is warm and limp and sad. So one of the things I did was to line the bowl kind of in between layers of greens with paper towels. That helps keep the salad really nice and crispy. And I'm just using my hands to toss the fennel in with the romaine. We want it evenly mixed. Okay. We're going to put all the oranges in there. And I've also got some nice green and black Italian olives. I've chopped those up. That's going in there too. I'm going to add a little bit of the dressing to start. This is a lot of salad. 2 heads of romaine makes a pretty substantial salad. So I'm just kind of tossing it in here to mix in the oranges and the olives and get the dressing on there. And then the really fun part is the chickpeas, roasted chickpeas, and the artichoke hearts. A little warm, but that's all right. It's not going to wilt it too much. So this is a heavy duty salad. The beans, again, lots of protein in there. And I'm going to add just a little bit more dressing so that the chickpeas and the artichoke hearts get some of those flavors in. Oh man. If this wasn't so much salad, I would just say that it didn't work out and take it all home with me. I'm so excited about the roasted artichoke hearts, I can't even stand it. Artichoke hearts was one of those things that, like, if my mom was feeling fancy, she'd get a jar of artichoke hearts and put them in the salad. And I'm like, oh, artichoke hearts. That was one of the things that when I was a grown-up and could do my own grocery shopping, I was like, I'm going to buy all the artichoke hearts I want anytime I want them. And I do. One of the joys of being an adult, you can buy whatever you want at the grocery store. So, and serve this up for everyone. I'm going to make sure everybody gets at least one little piece of artichoke heart, if not more, and some oranges. Make sure everyone's getting some of that really nice, crispy, sweet fennel. can't escape getting lots of lettuce in here, that's for sure. Okay. So it is salad time. I love how everybody like wrestles to be the one that gets to serve people their food. I think that's adorable. There you go.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try a little bit of this. This would be good as a panzanella too. Panzanella is where you use kind of, it's not just croutons, it's like great big pieces of delicious toasty bread mixed into the salad. That would go well with this salad too, I think. So let me grab a fork and I'll give it a shot. Let's see. Yep. This is awesome. What do we think? Yeah? Oh, Fred, you're back.
I'm back, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Here, have some gnocchi. Have some gnocchi. And let me get you some salad too. Fred, here's your salad. So the final piece of our Italian feast puzzle is our eggplant parmesan. So let's take a look and see. Oh, yes. I can hear it bubbling, and I don't want to overcook it. So this is how we're going to serve this up. We get another. Oh. All right, so our eggplant parmesan is done. Like I said, it weighs a ton. It's wonderful. So this is the finished product for our eggplant parmesan. Like I said, I can hear it bubbling away in there, so that's how you know it's working. And let me grab a spatula and we'll serve this up. So this actually holds together pretty well. That's another way that I know that it's pretty much done, is that it's sticking together and not falling apart when I'm serving it. Like I said, this is a great dish to take with you when you are going to a potluck dinner or something like that, because it really does make quite a lot and it's very, very substantial. And as you can see, the only thing, you know, it's a little bit more time consuming because of having to make the tofu ricotta and to cook the eggplant beforehand, but certainly it takes less time than lasagna. So you got that going for you. And most people, when you serve this, will not really think, oh no, she brought something plant-based. They'll think, wow, this is really good. And then they'll go on about their day until you tell them, by the way, that eggplant parmesan was completely plant-based. And then they'll go, ooh, you must be so amazing. And you can say, yes, I am. It's fine. You should try it. Almost here. And the final portion of our dish is ready. So let me hand all these out. You know, I say how well it was holding together only to eat my words, because now, of course, as I was getting toward the end, it was falling apart, but it's still good. So here's the eggplant parmesan. For the folks at home, this will conclude kind of the video portion of our cooking class, but all of these recipes are available online, as always, on plantbasedpriest.com or on the Facebook page. I always try and post those. So take a look at them, tell me what you think, and No class next week, but probably November the 2nd. Is that right? Yeah, probably November 2nd, because we've got something planned for next week and I'll be out of town the week after that. But first Tuesday in November, get back with me. I don't know what we're going to be doing yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll be delicious. Until next time, remember that you were created by love for love. So please go out and be loved. Have a great night, and thanks to our studio audience as always. Good night, everybody.